Pathetic fool. All too easy.
Oh my god, that was scary! Did you see that, Jim? It was Shao Kahn. He's scary!
Shut up!
He's scary. Hey guys, what's up? It's Brian and Jim with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and we're moving right along with Mortal Kombat 2 for the Super NES and Sega Genesis. He's still scary.
Alright, fine. Maybe he's a little scary. Anyway, released in 1993, this is the direct sequel to Mortal Kombat 1. Once again, this was developed and published by Midway. Once again, the Genesis port was handled by Probe, and the Super NES port was handled by Sculptured Software. This came out, much like Mortal Kombat 1, on every damn system of the time. So the Super NES, the Genesis, the Game Boy, the Game Gear, the 32X, the Sega CD, the Master System, the Amiga, DOS, and then eventually it found its way to the Saturn, the PlayStation, the PS3, the Xbox 360, and Windows Computers. Woo! That was a lot. Anyway, not much more to say. Let's get into it.
Graphically, this game was a huge improvement for both the Sega Genesis and the Super NES. As always, showing a side-by-side comparison, just like the first game, the Super NES just has a little more going on. Actually, I'll say a lot more. Not only does it have a lot of background, a little more stuff happening in the foreground, but the color palette is just so much more diverse, and it really just leaves the Genesis in the wind when it comes to the overall presentation. But putting that aside, look at the game. All the sprites have much more unique design to them, and you can tell there's just a lot more attention put into all the minor details. Still not arcade perfect, but it looks damn good to Jim and I. So as you can see, Jim and I, we both gave the Super NES a 9 and the Genesis an 8. It's good no matter how you feel, and I'm only going to add one beer because, hell, this looks pretty damn good to us.
Once again, the Super NES has much more in terms of sound effects, voice work, attack sounds, yada 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 yada. It's a more full-fledged experience in that sense. Also, once again, the game is a lot closer to the arcade. But to this game's credit, it sounds a lot better. It's still a little muddy and reverby for my taste, but it's a very full kind of sound system going on here. And you can tell it's just really dynamic. The sound is really close to sounding like real instruments this time instead of just, well, the Casio. And it's a real noticeable improvement over the first game. The Genesis, again, is a little bit more arranged because of its sound card. And because of that, it's again very synth-heavy sounding. But the sound it goes for, at least from the music, is very crisp for what it does. It's not as layered, it's not as dynamic. Hell, you can even say maybe not even as good. Unfortunately, you're missing a lot of sound effects again, you're missing a lot of combat sounds, and the voice work. While there's more here this time, still not as much as the Super NES. So for scores. On the Super NES, Bri gave it a 9, I gave it an 8. And on the Genesis, Bri gave it a 6, and I gave it a 7. And sound-wise, one beer, no matter what, you're getting a pretty similar and very good package, no matter what game you play.
Alright, so the control, from this point on, I'll probably sound really repetitive, especially for the next coming reviews. MK2 is where this series really hit its stride for getting the control right. Not only did they add in a few extra attacks to vary it, but it just runs really smooth on either system. Jim feels it runs a little faster on Genesis, whereas I actually feel it runs a little smoother on a Super NES. Once again, it's just a matter of opinion. There really is nothing to back up either thought, but it's great on each system. Gone is all that lag and a little bit of muddiness you had in the first game. We really enjoyed it, and I really don't have a whole lot more to say. I will say that the fatalities, babalities, all those other goddamn finishers are still just as hard, and you need to get those inputs right. But this game does allow you to put in some cheat codes so you can extend your time and dick around and probably still fuck up that fatality. I gave it a 10, Jim gave it a 9 on the Super NES, and we both gave it 9s on the Genesis. As far as the beer requirement meter, one more beer, just because Jim's a Sega fanboy and can't get over the fact that the Super NES is better.
Damn it! Alright, so piggybacking off what Bri said, not about the goddamn Super Nintendo, there's a lot more going on in this game. So to poke fun at the ESRB, they threw in friendships. You also have babalities. And unlike the first game, you have multiple fatalities per character now, which is a very cool touch. Also, the movesets for each character are a lot bigger. And while some characters have more moves than others, I mean, Shang Tsung, Jesus Christ, all the morphing in his own moves, you just have a lot of options and it really fleshes out the gameplay experience. On top of it just being more fluid in general. Now, the Genesis plays faster, but the Super Nintendo maybe plays a little slower, but I actually kind of like that because it's a little less hectic, but you can actually plan out what you want to do a little bit better. That's personal choice for me right there. To the Sega Genesis standpoint though, you can use this wildly successful Sega Activator. Remember the Sega Activator?
No, nobody does.
Everyone remembers the Activator! Alright, the Activator sucked. Anyway, another downside, again, it's not the biggest game if you're, say, a combo freak or a more technical fighter side. But if you're looking for a game, that, especially a fighter to have fun with, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a game more fun than this. So, overall, Brian gave it a 10 for both, I gave it an 8 for both. I don't think you need a beer. You have enough going on here that you might not have time to drink.
So as I mentioned in last review, Mortal Kombat was revolutionary in not only the violence and adding in fatalities, but in beginning to interact with fans through secrets and Easter eggs. And Mortal Kombat 2 takes us to a whole new level. Not only do you have 3 new unique characters you can fight, but you have the sound designer, Dan Thornton, coming in and yelling, "Toasty!" So you have things like that. You have a lot of little hidden gems and titles that you can do, such as what I showed at the beginning of this video. You have a lot more random cheat codes. And you even have characters in the background, which would later go on to become major characters in the series. So they really thought about a lot of this upfront information. And for us, it's still an original idea. Now, Jim already mentioned the babalities and the friendships, which were just basically a big FU to all the parents and all the ratings boards who wanted to say it was too violent, and we applaud that. Other than that, though, the actual mechanics of the game, they didn't add a whole lot more other than a low punch and a high kick. So as you see, I gave it an 8 for both systems. Jim gave it a 7. Still pretty original in our eyes, and we'll add a beer just for those hilarious babalities.
Alright, replayability. Shit, there's a lot here. You have 12 characters, all with unique endings. It's very fun. You have buddies, you want to play with them, you can play for hours. The secrets. Some of the unlockables take 50 straight wins to get, so you're gonna try again to do that. Hell, when I was a kid, I would spend at least an hour winning games by myself against a 2-player who wasn't there, just so I could see the special characters. Nerd! Shut up! Anyway, so there's a lot here, and you'll be playing again and again and again to really appreciate the full set of everything that's going on here. Bri gave it 10s, I gave it 9s. It's tough to argue against. Again, I can't even think of a reason to add a beer.
Well, overall, it's been repeated throughout this review, but MK2 is a major update to the first game. More characters, more moves, more finishing moves, more secrets. It's everything we love about Mortal Kombat. The biggest thing me and Jim took away is that even though he's a big Genesis fan, he can admit the Super NES version is better. So as you see from our scores, I gave the Super NES a 10, he gave it a 9, and we both gave the Genesis an 8. But either way, this is a fun-ass game, and I don't care if you're a collector or whatnot. If you have either one of these systems, pick it up. I guarantee you'll have fun. So, as you can see, now we start getting into the varying scores. The Super NES overall rounds out to an 8.9, and the Sega Genesis rounds out to an 8.2. Both well above average, with the Super NES just being a little better. As far as the beer pairing is concerned, we're going with the Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA. Just like Mortal Kombat 2, the 90-minute IPA outshined the predecessor, which is the 60-minute IPA. A lot of flavor, a lot of alcohol. It'll pair really nicely with this game. But you shouldn't have too many, because you're going to need your focus to pull off some of those fatalities. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, click subscribe, hit like, leave a comment, or share it with your friends. We appreciate it no matter what. Make sure you come back next week for even more Mortal Kombat goodness. Cheers, guys.